Good morning. We are at day 14 of 100 days of community. I contemplated not showing up today in solidarity with Day with No Immigrants, right? Because, well, that's solidarity, not showing up for work. And even though I work for myself and what have you, but then I sat down and I thought about it, and I was like, that would be an irresponsible thing to do to the community that we're building and teaching people how to be in community. It would be potentially trauma inducing, right? Because you trusted that I would show up and you've gotten used to that, and we are here together. So it was like, that would not be a good choice. But today is actually day 14, and what we were talking about is accountability without shame, right? I often talk about accountability being neutral. So then it led me into thinking about how that could actually be beneficial into this morning, right? When we were thinking about accountability without shame and it coinciding with a day with no immigrants and me saying, you know what, no, I am going to show up instead of not showing up. I did, however, decide to keep my kids home from school and we are going to sit down and have a conversation. I will potentially record that and share that with you guys on the podcast here on Substack. Where we will be discussing what is happening in America right now. Why I thought it was important to show up. Well, one, again, accountability is neutral. Why I decided to shift our conversation for this is because in building community, solidarity is something that's going to happen, right? Like that's the strive, the goal. We don't want to come into community thinking we were going to save a person, a group of people. We want to come into community being in solidarity with people. I'm going to move this because I look a little like you can't see me. There we go. Sunlight, go girl. So that being said, Morgan would like to say good morning.
Good morning.
Kieran says good morning too, but he ran into the kitchen. Okay, go over there and nourish your body. Don't try to use this as a moment to not do that. So accountability is neutral. I want us to get used to that, right? And part of that accountability that we're going to pay attention to today is how we could have been accountable in our past and how we can do so in changing and shifting the paradigm now. Good morning, Michelle. So here's our 3 takeaways for today. 1, accountability is a practice, not punishment. 2, moving beyond cancel culture to create space for repair. No. Self accountability as liberation work, right? And I'm going to tie those into a day without immigrants and why, even though I am facing all kinds of problems with the amount of school that my children miss, because they are roughly, we go as we need to go. But I also take mental health days as they need them. Anyway, I digress. So today is accountability. And
Stop copying.
Okay, hi. I'm on live. Do you guys need to go to another room?
Goodbye.
Thank you. I appreciate that. See that? Appreciate that. Do you need to go to another room too? Don't give me a mean face. Anywho, so today's article I wrote about and I talked about our ancestors. Many of us, first of all of us are immigrants in one way or another in this country. If you are not indigenous to this land, you are an immigrant or a descendant thereof. Whether you were forced here as an enslaved African or you are white now that you become white, you are a child, grandchild, great grandchild of an immigrant. I happen to exist on both sides of that bridge. I am the descendant of enslaved Africans. I live about an hour and a half from where my people were enslaved. I am also a second generation American on my mother's side. My grandparents came here during the War of Independence in Ireland. accountability, how that ties in. When we've been talking and I asked the question, who are you before you were white? You can sit down and you can think about what it took for them to become white. I'm going to pull up my article from this morning. And today's a little bit heavier. I know we come here and it's all light and jovial, and I love that. I really, really do love that, right? But it's a little bit more somber because it's a little bit more real. Not that the other stuff is not real, but this is just, it just kind of takes a little different toll. Anyway, in the Season of Self series, throughout this, I've been preparing people through winter to kind of shed, release, let go. And as a little excerpt from here, I was talking about, reflecting on accountability of how our ancestors came to be here and what it took for them to become white. Right. And what it took for our ancestors, if you're a white bodied person or if you are a mixed person who has white ancestry, in becoming white, they had to stop being in solidarity with not just Black and Brown people, but also with other white bodied people, right? They faced forced assimilation, which in and of itself was violent, right? The system, I continuously tell you, there's no escaping the harm of oppression for anyone. It just lands differently. But like abuse, we would never turn around and say, well, at least you're only getting punched in the face and you're not getting spit on, right? Like, we're not going to look for abuse Olympics, right? Like, I don't want to be the top tier oppressed person. I don't want to be oppressed. So when we're looking at the web that we've woven of oppression, right? I'm very, very intent and very intentional about sharing how everybody is oppressed in one way or another. Men, women, children, white, Black, immigrant, non-immigrant, all of us, disabled, able-bodied, queer, straight, trans, cis, all of the things. We got to find it, see it, pluck it out, right? We don't need that anymore. Dig out the root. So when we're talking about accountability and what it took to become white, that is a very heavy thing, right? I shared in our last one where my grandmother, who was 100% an immigrant, during a time where they were talking about the scourge of the Irish and depicting people, the Irish, in newspapers in very ugly ways, monkeys, dirty people, like, look at them coming here from this other land and they're disgusting and bringing things down. And she still chose to be a racist. like, even in the face of all of that, that's accountability. Holding space for repair, right? Like moving into that, not canceling, which would be part two, or takeaway two, and leaving space for repair is me understanding what she must have went through underneath forced assimilation. I hope that that gives you an idea of what I'm saying. So as we move through this, accountability is a practice, not a punishment. Accountability often carries shame because we view it as a punishment rather than a tool for growth, when true accountability is about repair, responsibility, and restoration. As an example, in restorative justice circles, the goal isn't to shame the person who caused the harm, but to identify how harm can be repaired and relationships can be restored, right? So, as in today, if you had the ability, and I understand capitalism, I'm not unaware, and this is where community comes in, right? And mutual aid comes in. If you had the ability to stay home, you should have stayed home. Should have done nothing. Don't shop. Do what you can, because that is a part of that repair. That is a part of that restoration, very specifically, if you are a white bodied person. That is you making generational repair, because your folks came here speaking a different language, doing menial jobs, right? I speak about the Irish because that's who I am. Can't talk about anybody else's thing. The Irish worked side by side in fields with the enslaved Africans and still made a choice to become police officers, to become priests, to carry on the tradition of colonization. They traded their green for white. That is truth. That is fact. I can hold space for what they were going through, what they were thinking, how fucking horrible it was, how terrible it was coming from a land that has been consistently colonized, that Britain was using as the bread bowl of colonization, and the abuses and everything that they dealt with, and then to come here and find an escape from that violence through becoming white. But in that, what was the joy? What did they lose? They lost their language, connection to their land, connection to their people, connection to their surrounding community. Fun fact, look up Bacon's Rebellion. So they knew that there was a time to stand with enslaved Africans. They knew that. But it was just too enticing to get on top of that horse and get a little cute gold star shield. And here we are today. So, what can you do to make ancestral repair, ancestral restoration? What does that look like? Today, in my decolonization group, a mom said, I want to know how to explain this to a child certain age, and she happens to be white with a child of Mexican ethnicity. And that kind of clicked something for me, where you find, right, a lot of white women now have mixed children. And this was an idea that it was going to stop racism and just make everything look at like love will heal the world. That's not true, because racism is a system, right? A system of oppression, a system of violence, and your interpersonal relationship, it does not matter. Right. And what happens is you have a bunch of white women that have a bunch of marginalized children that do not know how to show up. And not that they don't want to, they desperately want to show up for their child. Most parents want to show up deeply for their child, but those tools do not exist inside of whiteness. Those tools do not exist inside of white supremacy, right? And what America is now teaching white women is what the punishment of being a race traitor. Nothing has changed, right? Now you have a bunch of children who are in danger, and you are finally feeling the grief of what it is to be non white in this land. To sit down and wonder, will your children be snatched away from you? Like the enslaved African, like the indigenous mother, like the Mexican mother today, with sending your kids to school, and you've never felt that grief, right? Never, ever have you felt that, unless you were an immigrant, even a white bodied immigrant. Would they take my children away to go to laundry houses? Would they take my children away for indentured servitude? But in becoming white, you forgot that. You forgot that feeling. So I want you to sit with that, because what's coming up in your body is not your saviorism, though it will mask itself as that. And I want you to step the fuck away from that very quickly, because you can't save anybody, because we are all suffering because you couldn't save yourselves. Just know that. I want you to sit with the fact that it is an ancestral awakening. You are sitting down and you are reckoning. There is a reckoning that is happening. We are way past awareness, way past awakening. If you haven't been woke in the past 4 years, because COVID is the awakening for white people, we are now at reckoning. Okay? Wait, we are now at reckoning. We are here. Yay. And there's a reckoning that is happening in your body, in your epigenetic DNA, that is reminding you of what it is to be an immigrant in this country, specifically if you're a white mother with non white children. And I don't mean racially, because we know that there are racially white kids that are ethnically something else. But if your child is ethnically something else, you are finally feeling the grief of what it is to be a mother that is non white in this country, and feeling the grief of your ancestors and why they assimilated. So that goes into that part too. You guys are out here canceling family members instead of doing the work and figuring out how to repair it. And you have an opportunity to do that restoration now. It's why I chose to keep my own children out of school and to explain to them. And I'm not, Black people have stood with everybody since always. So they will not be getting the Negro lesson of why we stand with people. They know that. That's an always. They will, however, be getting the lesson of how their ancestors, their very, very white ancestors, their very own great grandmother, made the choice to become white. To become white. And that is not to say that I understand how systems work. My mother made a choice to stay and remain Irish. That works in your living room. She understood that systemically she was white out in the world, but she made a very conscious choice to be Irish in our home, and to teach me the pride of being Irish in our home, and to teach me what we went through as the Irish people. And that is what I teach my children. Now, because of race in America, they don't get the benefit of being Irish, just Negroes. That's how that works, because race. But if you're white bodied, your children also do not get the benefit of being their ethnic identity. See that? Sucks. That's what it takes to become white. So I want you to think about that as we go into point two. Cancel culture often shuts down the possibility of repair by emphasizing exile, very European construct, over transformation. Instead, liberation focused accountability involves calling people in, not calling out, and I will share that distinction, in giving them space to take responsibility and change. That is what accountability is for. That is repair. As an example, an employee who says something harmful in a meeting can be approached with curiosity and guidance instead of public condemnation, allowing for learning and relationship repair. A couple years ago, I explained what's the difference between calling people out and calling people in. White women, who are usually the face and the active bodies of anti racism, have a tendency to call people out. It's very finger wagging. It's very, I know this, you should know this. What the hell have you been doing? I don't know. They were probably doing the same shit you were doing last week before you figured out about racism. How about a little bit of grace? How about that? You don't get to co opt anyone else's anger because you just figured out something that's happening in the world, right? What you should do is meet somebody with the same grace that we have been giving you for generations, right? Sitting down, that's calling in. Hey, what you said is a problem. Let me tell you why it's a problem. This is how it impacts people. One, you're leading with curiosity and you're guiding something, right? You're not finger wagging, which automatically gets that defensiveness up, right? Because if you come yelling at me, who the fuck are you talking to? Like, I don't need it. I don't want to know anything else that you have to say. First and foremost, I want to understand who it is that you think you are talking to when you're speaking to me like that. Like, I'm confused. So you need to get that confusion sorted first. And then after I can possibly regulate my nervous system, then I want to hear what you have to say. And so there's a lot of hurdles to an already difficult, painful conversation that's about to happen. So the best thing is to lead with curiosity. Hey, so did you realize that what you said was harmful? Oh, now they're also curious, unless they're not, right? But no, I didn't. Tell me why. Okay, well, here's this long-standing history, right? Like when I did not learn about Romani history, right? So like it's not like we all know everything. We don't know what we don't know, right? So I will liken my own journey to that of your anti-racism journey. I did not know that gypsy was a slur, right? And I have like a whole gypsy vibe, right? That was my whole thing, that bohemian thing, eclecticness. And so I found all kinds of amazing words aside from gypsy. But I did not know that gypsy was a slur. Most of us did not know because that's what systems do. They keep us separated. So imagine if I just got canceled, I'd still be one, using the word gypsy. Two, I'd be upset because like I lost friends, family because I used the fucking word. None of us are even Romani. Who's it hurting? See how that works? See? But instead, because people came to me with curiosity, like, hey, did you get the memo? Like, we don't use the word gypsy anymore. Oh, shit. No, I didn't. Let me learn. In doing so, I started following Romani creators on TikTok, learning so much about the culture, how rich it is, the difference between like, because I used to like, I'm like, oh, well, I could use gypsies. There's Irish gypsies. There's not. There's Irish travelers, completely different situation, history, and all of that. But my whole point of it is leading with that curiosity and going into it in a way that my defenses were down, right? And this doesn't mean cowering or whatever. I'm a very direct person, extremely direct. I don't sugarcoat anything. I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm going to be very honest, but I do want to do it in a way that creates transformation. Not in a look at me, I know more than you, shut up. And too often, that calling out culture is what that leads to. And it leads to the cancel culture. I tried to talk to them. They didn't want to listen. Well, I wouldn't listen to you either. First of all, you're lucky you probably didn't get punched in the face because the way y'all talk is wild. But I'm a Gen Xer and I grew up, people got punched in their face for talking to people recklessly. So I'm mindful, like, do I want to say this and get knocked in my teeth? Like, sometimes I do, and I'm willing to take that chance. Other times I'm not. Yes, That is a traumatic response, but that is fucking reality. And we are children of our generation, right? So you have a bunch of people that are coming from a different generation trying to talk to people that come from a generation like mine or behind, we're immediately on defense, we're confused. What is happening? And why are you talking to me like that in such a strong and loud and very wrong way? So, all of that to say, call in culture says, sit with me. Come on, come here, come here. I want to tell you something. Hey, in case you didn't know, if you are here in this land and you are not indigenous, you are most likely an immigrant's child, right? On I forget what day it is. I'd like to do little yearly reminders, and I do say things that are antagonistic, sometimes intentionally. And my running joke, my yearly reminder, is that if you're white in this country, you are an anchor baby. I know it's gonna bring them out. I know it's going to bring them out because they have put a picture in their mind of what it looks like to be an immigrant or what you would call an anchor baby. And it's never their little baby. It's never their cute little white, chubby cheek, rosy cheek, blue eyed blonde baby. It's never that. It's never that. But that is what it takes to decenter whiteness because to the indigenous here, yeah, you are the first aggressor. You are the first immigrant that they welcomed, and you brought harm and disease and hundreds of years and generations of terror. Yet they still haven't canceled you. They still create space for repair, but you are canceling your grandma, right? When Black people embrace white people, systemically you're violent. I shared with you guys the story of my mother, white bodied, disabled, lost her leg. If you see me putting her in a car, she falls. You have a thought, unconscious bias. It comes up. You think I'm bringing this woman harm. And at best, you think maybe I'm her home health aide, but you would never think I'm her mother, I'm her daughter, right? And that is that disconnect that happens that whiteness creates. So you have to sit down and think about that. And yet, and still, with all the harm that whiteness as a system and white body people has brought to Black people, we're still here. We're still here. Come sit with me. Let's talk. Let's unlearn. Let's dismantle. Let me in the fold. Come to the barbecue. All kinds of stuff. But you are canceling your aunts. That is lazy activism, friends. And I want us to do better, right? And that is me holding you accountable. Again, I do not want anybody where there's going to be harm. I recognize how violent whiteness is. I recognize that there are people that you could literally get punched in the face when you're talking with them about these sorts of things. Don't do that, right? Be safe or have the conversation in a safe place, yada, yada, yada. Always protect yourself first. 3, sorry, I'm a little bit over or gonna be. 3, self accountability as liberation work. Self accountability is foundational to collective liberation. When we confront our own internalized bias and behaviors, like I just shared with you, we create a ripple effect in the spaces that we occupy. Thank you. Tiffany says, wow, this hits me hard. Thank you. Thank you for sitting with it because it's deeply uncomfortable. I'm not going to pretend, right? As an example, journaling, reflecting on feedback, and actively seeking out conversations about privilege or harm are ways to practice self accountability. Showing up here is a way of being accountable, right? I'm not giving you a 3-page Canva template and like, hey, let me show you how to build community in 100 days. This is not that. This is not a pyramid scheme. This is, I'm going to direct you and I will guide you. And I hope that you choose to utilize this and build communities amongst yourselves. This is not a here's how to hang out with Black people. This is not here's how to be an effective ally class course. This is not that. This is how to literally dismantle every single barrier that supremacy culture has given us, right? One of my favorite tattoos. I tattoo things on my arm, right? And so it's a sleeve. Yeah, we don't need another fucking pyramid scheme, okay? Okay, I can't take it. I can't take it. But I have a sleeve of quotes, right? And just like words that's like indelible on my skin and that mark me and like imbue me with the power that is I. right? And one of them is a quote. The first one I put on there is a quote by Somerset Maugham, and it says, "We don't write because we want to. We write because we must." The second one that came right after that, education is wealth. I keep calling you Pega. I know who you actually are, just not using your name because you don't have it up there. So I just want you to know that I know who you are. And thank you for being here. Love you. The second one is a quote by Rumi, and I often get this fucked up, but you will get it. But it's like, our task is not to seek for love, but to seek the barriers within ourselves that we've created against it. Right. And I love Rumi, Sufi poet. Brilliant. But that is it, right? I'm taking that power, that this scripture, if you will, that I've literally lived my life on and built my life on, and doing that for anti oppression work. I'm going to find every single barrier that we've created against connection, and we're going to dismantle it. That is what this 100 days is about, right? So when you are showing up like this, I want you to know that this is self accountability, right? Because I don't make it nice. I'm a kind person. I'm not a nice person. My work is very real, very tangible. But I know that this is traumatic, right? And this is why I'm like, take your time. If you're on day 3, and even though we're at 14, that's cool. That is why I'm enjoying the Substack platform, right? Because unlike TikTok, where I was able to share or go live, it's constant like doom scrolling, where this, you could find all of my concentrated thoughts, ideas in one space, in one series, in one aspect, and you could look back on it and you could revisit it because it is a journey, right? So I want you guys, that's the takeaway today, is like to one, be gentle with yourself. This is not easy work. And this is a not 100 days to community in a way that's, I always say, like, I can't sell decolonization. I'm not, and business and marketing is my major. So, like, I could package these things in a way that would have me being a millionaire with ease, but then it wouldn't be true liberation work, right? Because you can't sell healing. My little line is, you can't hustle healing. You can't. It's weird. Can't. Bye, Michelle. So, as we close for today, right, and we round this out, your 3 takeaways. Accountability is practice, not a punishment, right? Super simple. You've seen it live and in action with my son. I told him before I got on here, I'm going to be live. You guys can't talk. He started making his noise. He stems. That's cool. I understand you stem. I got that. But you're too loud for being on live. I'm going to leave. Look at that. Took accountability. He didn't argue with me. He didn't give me all the excuses. I'm autistic. I need a stem. Hey, no, he owned his shit. Wow, I am being loud and stemming here. Mom said that she needed quiet before she got on here. I'm going to leave. That's the repair. That's the restoration. Super simple. There's no punishment in that, right? He just took accountability, did what he needed to do, and got on. 2, moving beyond cancel culture to create space for repair. When we're sitting here today on this day, right? It's a national day. Hopefully, we have more of this, but a day of without immigrants. Look it up. I shared a note in Substack about it too. I want you to sit down and think about not canceling and making a space for repair. What does that look like, right? That ancestral repair, standing with the immigrants of today, because your ancestors who were the immigrants of yesterday did not do that. What does that look like for you in generational repair? Remember yesterday how I said 7 generations back, 7 generations forward. It's sacred work, it's spiritual work. It's bigger than who's in presidency. Don't matter. This is everyday life. Who's the president has not changed how we are oppressed daily, right? There are people sending their children to school right now, hoping their kids come back. Sit with that, right? And you, as white body people, specifically have the opportunity to do some ancestral repair. Not come and save us. You can't save yourselves. But you do have the ability to say, I'm going to do what they didn't do. And you do have an ability to touch the part of you that is still an immigrant. This is not your land. You are indigenous to somewhere, and it ain't here. And I don't care if you've been being born here for 10 generations. I don't give a shit. Oh, I could trace my lineage back to the Mayflower. That's the problem. That is an immigrant boat, okay? That is no different than the boats they came in on. That boat is a problem too, right? So we're going to sit with that truth. 3, self-accountability as liberation work. It's a beautiful thing to hold yourself accountable. Cannot go out here. Remember, we spoke about the other day where it's interesting to me where white body people are talking about Gaza and Israel being the occupying force and Palestinians being the true indigenous of that land and settler colonialism while being an occupying force and a settler colonialist. That's self accountability, friend. We can't change anything anywhere else until we change here. It starts here. And while you guys are talking about everything that's going on out there, you don't even recognize the harm you're bringing to your immediate community here. You are speaking an anti Semitic rhetoric. You are conflating thoughts of nationalism with genocide. It is just a whole problem when the truth of the matter is you need to be working on the accountability of yourself and your own immediate communities and the immediate harm that you bring today to people right now. If you are white and you have the ability to keep your children home and you sent them to school, you are actively committing harm against brown people right now, right here. And if you are white and you had the ability to not go to work and still did, you are doing the same, right? And if you are white and had the ability to stay home and did not reach out to other white body people that did not have that ability, you are not doing community, okay? Because it's not individual action, it is communal. You guys could have got together, and the one yoga mom that has the ability to stay at home could have watched 10 kids. Now imagine if 10 moms that had the ability to do that did that. Now imagine if the same 10 moms all turned around and said, you stay home from work, we'll add $100 into that. Talking about a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of community building, a lot of historical restoration. That is how you build community. That is how you show up. Okay? I want to thank you guys for being here. I want to thank you for sitting with these deeply uncomfortable truths and doing this work. It's not easy. So, today, as you sit with this word, I want you to do these 3 things that I like to say: deep breaths, drink water, move your body. Trauma, grief. Do not ever think that this is not trauma work. Do not ever think that this is not grief work. It is. And treat it as it is. And treat it sacred. And treat yourself as sacred. And the work that you're doing as sacred. Okay? Amanda, same to you. I wish it gave the hearts like Zoom. I love you guys. If you need me, inbox me. If you cannot navigate the thing here, like the messenger here, I'm on Facebook. I am super accessible. Hey, Des, something came up in my body. I'm feeling this sort of way. Could you help me with this? Yes, I with pleasure, with joy. I don't want people holding this stuff in. I want it out. I want us dismantling. I want us breaking it down. This is obviously for paid subscribers. So when you get the hi, welcome to being a paid subscriber, there's a link there to the Makeshift Happen group in Facebook. Come in there, discuss it with other people that are doing the work. And Facebook is my living room. So, like, come to my house and see me there. Bye.